Well, people in Limestone County are concerned that students exposed to COVID-19 are not being quarantined. Our Kenesha D spoke with the district. They talk about how the students are handling the positive cases.
I spoke with Limestone County Schools Superintendent Randy Sherhouse, and he says about more than 24 people tested positive with the coronavirus within the school district. However, he's also sharing how he intends to keep students and teachers safe.
We always have to be on our guard, and we're going to continue to do that as we move through, to Christmas.
Superintendent Sherhouse, about 4 months into his new role, says the school district is working consistently to follow CDC guidelines. However, a former bus driver who chose to be anonymous shared with WZDX News that students exposed to a teacher infected with the virus didn't go into quarantine. Sherhouse clarifying that a quarantine isn't needed if a student and teacher weren't in close contact for 15 minutes.
If I go and help a student for 2 minutes, then that's less than that 15 minutes exposure, so that's okay.
Sherhouse says the same guidelines apply to bus drivers.
As long as they can maintain at least 6 feet, not be around the bus driver for 15 minutes, then they don't have to be quarantined, thankfully.
He says the district has worked to maintain social distancing in the classroom.
We actually have seating charts, and so they go by the seating charts, and some of our nurses have actually gone into classrooms and measured with a tape measure to make sure they're beyond the 6 feet.
Concerns about school bus mechanics not being quarantined after exposure to another infected person was also shared with WZDX News. Sherhouse says he isn't aware of that case, but assures the community this.
Any particular situations, if that person would want to call and say, this is what happened and you might need to investigate, I'd be glad to talk to them.
And the superintendent says that school grounds in Limestone County Schools are cleaned daily. Putting the Valley first, Kenesha Dees, WZDX News.